Okay, so we'll just introduce ourselves first of all. We don't have long, we're here for an hour today. And just to explain a wee bit about what we are, what we do. And we brought some friends along today to speak. It's quite a nice wee small group. Just now I'm just adjusting my screen so I can see if anyone's coming in late. So it's a small enough group that feel free to just chip in, switch your microphone on, chip in with anything that you think is relevant for us, or even if it's not relevant, feel free to speak. I don't want to be the big dictator here from the desk here, so feel free to join in, stop me at any point. We've got some different wee tools to let you participate as well, so we'll just work our way through. So Scotland's Enterprising Schools, we were launched in 2015, and we were originally set up as a dedicated online portal to support teaching practitioners with the delivery of the Scotland Can Do framework. And our aim is to empower children and young people with the skills that they're going to need in life, learning and work. And we mainly do that by providing training and support for teachers so that they can be creative and confident enough to embed enterprise education within the curriculum. We're also funded year on year, so there's no cost attached with any of the support that we can give you. Just a wee quick overview of what we're going to cover in the next hour. We're going to talk about enterprise for education, what that actually is, why we do it and how we do it. We're going to take you through some of the support available to you. We're going to talk to you about how important the partnerships that we've made and how you know how important partnerships are for you and your school as well. And we'll give you some examples of creative bravery. And we've hopefully got enough time at the end for a wee question and answer session with yourselves. Now we're going to start off just now to get some ideas what you think enterprise education actually means to you. So we're using menti.com. If you've not used this before, it's a really good online facility. So if you go onto a browser window or you want to use your phone to do this, you can go into menti.com and enter the code 2407030. I'll leave that up there for a wee second. And it's asking you what enterprise education actually means to you, just so we can gauge what you think it is at the moment and see if we're all on the same page. Now I'm going to stop sharing so that Lucy can share her screen with you, and you'll be able to see what other people are also putting into this. It should come up as a nice wee graphic. So I think it gives you the opportunity to do about three words. So there we go. Innovation, brilliant. Risk-taking, creativity, definitely. The words that appear bigger are the ones that more people are kind of typing in. We quite often use this tool when we go out and about, and we've had to put a profanity filter on it when we're working in the universities. Although some of them get around it by using Spanish and things like that. But yeah, collaboration, big one for us. Business, absolutely. Now in the future. Practical as well, practical learning experiences. Yep, brilliant. Thank you. So we quite like this tool for using to get a wee bit of interaction when we're doing presentations. The pupils love this as well. Okay. Right. Oh, more work coming up here. Enabling, absolutely. Enabling them to go out, life beyond school. Creativity is a big one that's coming up, which is perfect for this Creative Bravery Festival. Okay, Lucy, I'm going to share again.
Okay, I'll do stuff.
Thank you. And I'll move on. Okay, so just to take you through really quickly, what is enterprise in education? The words that you've already typed in suggest to me that you already know, so I'm not going to labour the point here. In the past, I think certainly when I began teaching, it was all about making an item and selling it at the Christmas fair or the summer fair and how much money could be made. But nowadays, really since the Curriculum for Excellence launched in 2004, enterprise has become a lot more embedded in education. And we talk about enterprise in education because it's really focused on the learning and the teaching. And it's about this, learning and teaching in a creative and innovative way, with the aim of really empowering our children and young people with the skills that they're going to need for the future. It's really that forward thinking, and it's cross-curricular. So it's happening throughout. So early years in primary are doing it all of the time. In secondary schools, they are doing it all of the time as well, but they're having to work across department, which is sometimes a bit trickier depending on the environment of the school. But I always think the secondary teachers have got a harder job to do, but they do it so well to work together and really prove to everyone, and especially the young people, that it's not just a subject, it's really a kind of mindset or an ethos, and it's about equipping them with the transferable skills required to succeed in the world of work. We include in that entrepreneurship and that kind of learning, and it's important to really foster that, but it's not just about that setting up a business, it's about equipping them with these skills for life. And throughout enterprise and education, we maintain a real life dialogue, so constantly connecting it to the careers, industry, ambitions, finances, personal strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of thing, and really just showing them the relevance to real life increases their engagement quite a bit. So I said earlier on that we are primarily an online resource. I'm going to pass over to Lucy to talk about our website and our online presence, just to show you some of the resources that we've got on there for you. Lucy.
Yeah. So we have a brand new website that's just got totally redesigned and relaunched this year. And as we are government funded, we monitor downloads to kind of measure the uptake and what resources we have that are being well received by schools. So Julie, if you move that on.
Mm-hmm.
So we provide resources for early years, primary, secondary, and we also offer CLPL resources for enterprise practitioners. These have been designed for teachers by teachers, and they're all mapped to the Curriculum for Excellence, Building the Curriculum for, and DYW's Career Education Standards as well. So this page here is a little overview of some of the resources we have on site. So each resource lets you see at a glance the length of time you need, along with the level that they're pitched at, and they're all very easily adaptable, so you're free to make changes and updates. We're also always really keen to see how you use our resources, so we always encourage people to, if you're using them, share it on Twitter, tag us in it, and let's see. And if you change the level that they're pitched at, we're more than happy to feature that on site. It's all very, it goes kind of both ways.
I was just going to add as well there, Lucy, that some of our resources that we've been working on over the summer, well, a lot of young people have been working from home. Some of these are designed to be done independently from home, that can be set as learning tasks for home learning if we need that in the future, and you'll be able to tell the difference on there just if you go into the resources site. So there's loads of stuff that you can do in school, but there's also stuff you can set for your young people to do independently.
Yeah, and some are fully fledged projects. Some are just skills display posters for classrooms, and we have a few different kind of classroom resources just for sort of inspiration, and then some of them are obviously a wee bit more in-depth projects. Okay, so as I said, we also offer CLPL resources. We also offer our deliveries as events as well. So because our deliveries are happening in a much more virtual manner, we'll be updating the events page and we'll encourage as many people to come along as possible. And our CLPL resources can be found here as well as a separate section. We're GTC approved, and that's in recognition of our effective learning modules that we have, namely our Enterprise and Educator programme. This has currently been updated, so it's not on site, but as soon as it's live, we will be sharing it, and that'll be going out in our newsletter as well.
Okay, I was talk about some of these. We've got a lot of interest in practice on site, and what we love to do is to share examples just to give people a wee bit of inspiration. And what I love about these is that some of them are, some of them are all singing, all dancing. You've got Curry Community there doing the World of Work Week or doing Grammar, and they've really embedded enterprise in their learning, and they've been working on it for years. But some of them are also just at the beginning of their journey, and they're just showing you, what they managed to do, and it's really encouraging for people at any stage of their enterprising journey. So the idea behind it wasn't just to have all the kind of gold standard, because we got feedback from people saying, it's too much, it's overwhelming. So we've really mixed it up in there, and we've got loads from all different sort of age groups. So we work with anyone that's working with young people aged 3 to 18. So in here you've got early learning right through to secondary. One of my wee favourite ones is the Learning Adventures in the Forest School Development, Westercraig's Nursery in Glasgow, Inner City Nursery. And I met head teacher Leslie Morrison I think this time last year, and they have really embedded enterprise throughout their learning, and it was so inspiring to see these 3 and 4-year-olds who, when we walked in the door, were trying to sell us their most recent cards that they had made, which were based on a painting they'd done with a local artist who was a professional. So they knew all about his job, and they had been to the workshops, and they had sold their cards at craft fairs, and then they wanted money out of us. When we visited, they had a till at the front door. They were setting up shop, and even just listening to the conversations. There was a 3-year-old who was able to count out the money for the card, and the other ones were saying, do you know what, we should have another shop, we could sell some of the toys, I've got things in the house. And they were really applying their learning and coming up with their own ideas. And what Westercraigs do is really let them have a voice and take the lead. So they've actually let them plan an outdoor forest school nursery, which is on a site within walkable distance of their actual main nursery. And they've been involved from the planning all the way through. They've been negotiating deals with suppliers, they've planned a map, they've invited people for the launch. They're brilliant. And to see that happening with 3 and 4-year-olds, you just think, you know, what are they going to move on to? And just the whole team were so inspiring and so, you know, welcoming to us as visitors coming in, and those kids wanted to tell us what they had done, and they also were asking, you know, what could we do to help them. I think they've been trained that way to try and expand their network and see what they can get out of other people that are interested. So that was really fascinating for me to see. That's a really good one I would draw your attention to. So that's the Learning Adventures one, you can see there on the second row down. Lucy, you've been working on one recently, and it's an example of how to use IT in education in a really enterprising way. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, so we've been talking to Reimagining, who are the UK's first VR social enterprise. So they were working with Granton Primary to give an experience of VR to young people. So they worked both with the kind of general school population and then those who have also had adverse childhood experiences. So through the introduction of VR, the young people had an opportunity to experience all these different scenarios that they wouldn't normally have had, but also develop their key enterprise skills, and it had real improvement with specifically their confidence and their communication skills. So Vairama are exploring ways that they can offer virtual work experience going forward to young people, because obviously just now it's something that young people might not be able to access physically in the coming months, and it's a way to ensure that these young people aren't missing out on ways that they can be developing their skills, and they're really keen to offer this as a kind of creative way to engage with young people and engage their interest.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting because it was, you know, as well as the young people being able to use the technology to expand their enterprise skills, it's also just a really different way of looking at it. So it's a kind of teaching in an enterprising way as well, which was, I found that really inspiring personally, just as a kind of new technology. The other one I wanted to talk about was Breadalbin Academy. If Monica's still on, I was going to speak to you, Monica, if you're still there. If not, I can speak.
I'm here.
While she's here. So Breadalbin Academy actually were awarded Scotland's Most Enterprising School 2020, just at the tail end of last academic year. And Monica, I just wanted to ask you what that means to the Breadalbin community.
I think it means quite a lot because it's a reflection of the work we do with the community. We work really hard to involve the community in school as much as we possibly can through partnership agreements and projects like enterprise projects. So without the community, we are actually in quite an isolated area. So I think last year we were voted or deemed to be the most deprived area in Scotland in terms of access. So making the most of what we have as a school and as a community is very important to us. Not everyone can come out here from the Central Belt and deliver these things, so we have to make the most of it. And without the local businesses, sports clubs, adventure tourism, all of that, we couldn't do what we do in school. So everyone plays a part.
Yeah, I think that's what I really noticed when I first came out. It was the partnerships, and it's a kind of two-way, a real two-way partnership, because the school and the young people are getting so much out of them, but likewise the local businesses and industries are really gaining from your talent pool as well. Would that be fair to say?
I think definitely, yeah. I mean, a good example of that, I suppose, is our work with the adventure sports companies, because we deliver a sport and recreation course to our seniors, and that course requires an element of work experience. But our school campus is the only sporting facility within about a 30-mile radius. So finding work experience placements is really tricky. Without these adventure sports companies offering that, we couldn't offer the course. So having this enterprising approach and working with our partners allows us to enhance our curriculum offering as well. The adventure sports companies in turn get access to this pool of local young talent that they can employ seasonally, or they can have part-time jobs at the weekends and things like that, which is something they struggle with. And with Brexit looming or not, a lot of their staff, I think we worked out that it was about between 60 and 70% of their staff were non-UK residents. So Brexit was making them slightly nervous. So having this link is yeah, like you said, it benefits us both.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I was going to say as well, that something that I noticed over your Twitter, which I viewed as quite an enterprising way of doing things, and I'm not sure how long you have been doing it, was the local farmers were putting on videos over lockdown for the young people. So I mean, I sat watching the lambing and things like that, and the sheep shearing. I thought it was fantastic.
Well, do you know that that came to light because that particular rural skills course is so hands-on, and it's delivered by our PT for social sciences, right? So he has to suddenly become a gamekeeper, an aquaculture expert, a fencer, a forestry expert. I mean, you name it. So again, without the partners, we couldn't actually run that course. But that particular farmer said to me, "Listen, Monica, I think we could do something here. We'll do it virtually. They can't, you know." Anyway, he was sending me through all these endless WhatsApps of sheep during lockdown. Actually, though, it turned out that it benefited him in the long run too, because what he was doing was he has an awful lot of fruit up there at the farm that goes all over the country. So he was forwarding on these videos to his suppliers, and they were using it to generate more sales and reflect, like, look at this beautiful countryside and where the fruit comes from. So it ended up going full circle, and he got something out of it in the end as well. But it was fun.
That's fabulous. Yeah, that just really struck with me. That one caught my eye, and I quite liked it. And then wished I had a career as a farmer. Actually, when I looked at the lovely, that none of them seemed to be bucketing rain or anything. It was all blue skies, so it was quite impressive. I'm sure that's what it's always like up there. Thank you,
Oh,
Monica.
it's glorious, yeah.
Thank you for coming on and speaking. I really appreciate that. Great ambassadors for Scotland's most enterprising school, and we hope to come and visit you at some point soon, back up to sunny Aberfeldy. I'm going to share my screen again, because just to show you that we couldn't do what we do without all of these partners, and we really rely on a lot of organisations that we work with, and the schools as well, because they give us this kind of inspiration to continue doing what we do, and also at the same time we're inspiring everybody else that comes onto our website. So this is just a wee screenshot of some of our partners. These are not everyone that we work with. Our key partners that deliver in schools for us are Young Enterprise Scotland and the Social Enterprise Academy. And today we're very lucky to be joined by some of our friends at Young Enterprise Scotland. We also have a Apparel Exchange there on the top row, and we've got Izzy along from there. So we're going to hear a wee bit from some of these people about their roles and how that, you know, what it looks like in school. So first of all, Fraser, how are you? Welcome.
Thanks very much for the invite, Julie.
You're most welcome. And I know talking is one of your favourite things. So That's partly part of the reason that you've been invited along today, but also I think what I find interesting about you is your own enterprising background, and then combining that with your role at Young Enterprise. Do you want to tell us a wee bit about that?
Absolutely. So my enterprise journey started when I was at school as a member actually of the Young Enterprise Scotland company programme in my 6th year. So over the course of 10 months, we created and designed our own business and competed at a national level. If I'm honest, looking back now, what we created was really, we bought and sold things from IKEA. And so the product itself was not the most innovative. However, the learning that we did through that and the skills that we developed as part of that entrepreneurial program are really something which has kind of stuck with me for the rest of my working career over the past 7 years from when I left school.
You look as though you just left school last year, Fraser. You're very...
Well, I know, it's my youthful looks, Julie, what can I say? So yeah, only 24 now, but when I left school, I had a position at Glasgow University to go and study theatre, digital media and sociology, that classic combination of course. And if I'm totally honest, I lasted 8 weeks because I absolutely hated the course and university life. It just wasn't for me. So dropped out in November of 2014, having no real clue what I was doing, where I was going, or why I did it. And then in January of that following year, started my own business. Doing my background when I was at school was I had a real passion for theatre and creativity, and combined a programme that I developed, a play about internet safety, into some creative learning workshops that I then delivered in partnership with Police Scotland and the NHS about internet safety, substance abuse, and laterally mental health. All because of the skills that I learned through school and working with some fantastic creative mentors and through a lot of different programmes, Paul being one of them, that I worked with, Youth Theatre Arts Scotland, and having been involved with the National Theatre through their Youth Advisory programme as well. So I had been able to pick up a lot of these different skills through the different programmes that I've been very lucky and very fortunate to be involved in over the years. A position opened up with Young Enterprise. I was looking to see something that was a bit more stable than working for yourself, and it can be quite a lonely experience if I'm being totally honest, being an entrepreneur. And a position opened up with the Bridge to Business programme, which is our college programme, working part-time, delivering enterprise education and helping facilitate that learning. Times have moved on. I'm now 2.5 years later with Young Enterprise, and now ironically manage the programme that I did when I was in school 7 years ago. So it's kind of come full circle for me, which is lovely, because my role now with Young Enterprise is running the company programme and our team programme, which is for additional support needs, students aged 15 plus, and also coordinating all of our digital delivery, which in the current time at the moment has become a very important role, and something which is kind of developing, if I'm being totally honest, on a daily basis as we try and support schools through that. But at Young Enterprise, our whole reason for being is all about education as learning by doing. So it's practical application of these enterprising skills. Now, realistically, it's a competition, and people know us for the fact the company programme is a competition, European-wide, and in fact actually worldwide, as a competition that runs all over the world. But at its very heart, it's about developing those skills for young people, so that when they leave at the end of their 5th or 6th year to go on to whatever they choose to do, whether that's further higher education, going into the world of work, or indeed starting up their own business, that they can take that real practical learning and practical experience with them. Because so often we're seeing now people who are going to college or going to university or going into work requiring to have work experience. It's becoming increasingly difficult to find that work experience, but what a young person can say, well, actually, I've left school now and I've actually run a business for the past 12 months, and let me show you about the product or the service that I created, the business plan I had to write, the interviews, the reports, the presentations I gave, and let me talk to you about all of the skills that I've developed and give you a practical example of how I did it. So that's really my Young Enterprise experience today. It's kind of been a winding path of participant to volunteer to now managing the programme. But one thing I'm really proud of in the programme is over this last year, we got the programme credit rated on the SCQF at a level 6. So the Young Enterprise Company programme is now the equivalent of a Scottish Hire. So students that are in schools taking part are able to achieve that, and a lot of it is now timetabled in schools as an additional, or indeed a replacement activity for what might be considered a more traditional model of that qualification route. And the same for our additional support needs. That's now a level 3 qualification. So I'm delighted that the fact that young people now are able to walk away from school with, for want of a better word, because I hate it, a piece of paper to qualify that learning and say that they have managed to achieve this. We had 311 young people walk away with the full course award at the end of last year, which is really fantastic. And we're seeing, increased numbers this year, even as a result of COVID, that more young people are saying, actually, what we're needing now is practical application of this learning rather than just learning for learning's sake in some respect. So we work, you talked already, Julie, about partnership working, and we do a lot of that at Young Enterprise as well. So the company programme students are getting live webinars and workshops with places like the IOD, the ICAS, Institute for Chartered Accountants Scotland, the Marketing Society, the RBS Dream Bigger programme, and a whole host of other partners through that delivery tool. And I think, and I'll say this cautiously because it is only September, but the delivery model that we've moved into in a more digital approach actually makes the programme and our approach to enterprise education a lot more equitable across the board, because we've got students from Orkney and Shetland all the way down to the borders and every council in between that takes part in this programme. And then now we're able to sit here at my home here just outside of Glasgow and give that same support and training to every school regardless of their geographic location.
In a nutshell, well done there. Thank you.
That answers your question.
Thank you. No, absolutely. Thank you for that. And it's so important, yes. And I think saying that, they can get their qualification now is so important, although, sometimes you are reluctant to say it because you don't want that to be the sole focus. But I think having that just really enhances your offer. I'm going to go to your colleague, Mary, now. Mary, you can introduce yourself and tell us a wee bit about yourself if you don't mind, but can I get you to focus on the work that you do with primary schools?
Absolutely. Thanks, Julie. So I'm Mary and I work for Young Enterprise Scotland as well, and basically while Fraser does the flagship programmes, I do all the other stuff in the schools. So we run everything in primary and secondary. So we've got things such as the Inventors Challenge and my personal baby, the Circular Economy Challenge. We've got the Fiver and Tenor Challenge. We've got loads of different types of challenges. And while Julie and Lucy offer support to practitioners and the teachers and the workers in the nurseries, what we do is we work directly with the young people. So I'm missing that enormously, as you might imagine. My background is like Julie in teaching, and I taught for 26 years in primary. And that's what I really love about my job just now, is that I can get in and work with the kids, but obviously that's not happening just now. So we're being creative just now and thinking of new ways to do it. But basically what we do is we offer all sorts of different programmes. It can be a day-long thing, or it can be over several weeks. And the idea is that whatever the children and young people do, it's an opportunity for them to lead the learning and for them to be creative and have ownership of it, because what that enables them to do is practice those enterprising skills or meta skills or skills for life. Those skills that we all need, no matter what kind of role we go into. So, it doesn't matter if you're going to be someone that works for yourself or someone that works for another organisation, or whether you're going to be creative or artistic or scientific, it doesn't matter, because we all need those skills such as confidence, communication, resilience, all of those skills that we need no matter which path we take. So the idea is that, as Julie said earlier on, traditionally it was about making things, selling things. We've moved away from that, and I think it's really about something that the children and young people can work on together, can lead on it, can have partnerships, as Monica suggested, all of those things, and they drive it forward. And with having that ownership, they can then really practice those skills. And the key is to make the connections between what they're doing in the classroom, out of the classroom, whatever they're doing as part of that project, and they can make the connections to their future learning, their future routes, and say, actually, I really negotiated well on that particular thing, you know, so I wonder what kind of jobs I could do. And that's how we encourage the teachers to talk to the children and young people so that they are thinking about those skills. But we've done lots of different things. I mean, you know, I'm just thinking one example that we did with our Circular Economy Challenge. Now, I had created that as a sort of 6 to 8 week project, and we work with organisations like Izzy's organisation who are circular, and they really encourage the children and young people to come up with their own ideas, their own circular products or services, some of which actually come to fruition, you know, bike repairs and things like that, where they actually set them up for real. But the idea is to get them to think about learning for sustainability. But partnerships are key, so businesses, organisations, social enterprises can come in and talk to the children about their learning. So it's not just at the level of the company programme where we need mentors and things like that. We really want businesses and partnerships to be part of nursery and primary school as well. And I think one of the interesting partnerships we had last year was, as I say, usually our Circular Economy Challenge is 6 to 8 weeks, but I created a one-day version, and we worked with Linlithgow Museum. And what they did, they had artefacts, so real objects that we could use from an old cobblers, which had been established in the 1800s. And they brought those artefacts into the classroom and really brought that to life. So the children were then thinking about lots of different things. They were thinking about, what is a cobbler? And, you know, why is it coming back into fashion again? You know, what's it like working in the museum? This person is a volunteer, this person works at the museum. What are those real life sort of roles? But then, of course, as they were creating and coming up with their own ideas, they were thinking about being artistic, they were thinking about being financial, they were thinking about all of the other things around it. So something that seems so simple can actually be really quite in-depth. So just a one-day challenge, they loved it, they had lots of fun, but the learning was really, really fantastic. So that's the kind of things that we do. It's really about getting the pupils to work together. That's the whole idea, and collaboration both within the classroom and out with, and all of that gives them the chance to practice those skills. That's really what we're all about.
Thank you, Mary. It's projects like that that make me really wish I was back in class to try that out myself. And you've told me a lot of stories about teachers that you've worked with that have taken maybe a one-day thing or a week-long thing and they've turned it into a termly exercise because they themselves are so enthusiastic, but also the young people have really shown an interest in it. So I love that people really just put their own spin on a lot of what you can offer them.
Absolutely.
As well.
And that's the beauty of it. We don't want it to be a very business orientated thing. It's really about creativity. It's about inspiration and about the pupils inspiring the teachers as well, because the teachers, I remember one teacher said to me at the start of the Circular Economy Challenge that he was doing with his class, he said, I'll probably have to steer them a wee bit with their ideas. And I said, no, you won't. Don't worry, they'll come up with lots of ideas, and they do. I mean, I've talked to all of you about some of the ideas are absolutely incredible. We had one group that wanted to plant all the public buildings in Clydebank. They were going to plant algae on the roofs of all the public buildings to improve the pollution. And I was thinking, another group that came up with dog poo bags impregnated with lavender seeds so that they would decompose and then grow new lavender, And my absolute favourite, as I always tell you, is the group in a school in Glasgow who the idea was to rescue something that would be waste, and they decided that when cars go to the scrapyard, they were going to rescue the seats. And I was like, what on earth are you going to do with the seats? Well, we're going to take them, we're going to make gaming chairs, we're going to bling them up, and we're going to sell them. And I was like, never in a million years would I or the teacher have come up with that idea. And it was so clever, and it came about just a family conversation, I think. They knew somebody that was a mechanic, and they were talking about what happens to cars when they end their life, kind of thing. But it was really, they are so inspiring, and I think you're absolutely right, Julie, that then that feeds back to the teachers and they can take it in any direction, and I think that's what's really encouraging for us. I think, that it's a two-way street. And of course, what then happens is that businesses, social enterprises, organisations who get involved get an awful lot out of it as well. And it just builds momentum, really.
Absolutely. That leads very nicely on to Izzy, who's on the call. She's nodding along as a You know, she understands those young people and the enthusiasm, the ideas they come up with. Welcome, Izzy. Do you want to introduce yourself to the people on the call and let us know a wee bit about what you do and your work that you've been doing with schools recently?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So, I mean, I set up a parallel exchange, and I'll just give you a wee bit of context and background to initially. So we're a social enterprise who've been operational for about 2.5 years, and we focus on school-aged kids' clothing. So initially it was just uniform that we focused on, and we have actually branched out to all kids' clothing, footwear, accessories, and jackets. And it was really, I mean, I'm a zoologist, so I'm all about preserving the natural environment. So the best thing we can do essentially is to consume less and look after the things that we've already got. And clothing has such a massive impact on all habitats and all communities around the world that I really had to do something quite practical around it. And focused on uniform initially because both my kids were at school. I was just sharing some stories just before this meeting. And, you know, children just keep growing. They keep on having to have their clothing replaced as they grow and their footwear replaced, and half of it isn't even worn. So it was like, well, hang on a minute, how do we bring together the need to keep these products in circulation and in use while also really starting to influence and change behaviors as well, and starting at a really young age. So when we set up, we engaged with schools because essentially they're kind of where we would get donations of uniform from, and they would be where essentially our demand market sat, you know, with the children and the parents and the guardians. But it was quite quick that we recognized that if we're really going to have change and support change, that, you know, we need to empower people with knowledge, right? So this became our mantra, that knowledge is empowerment. And the more people know about the clothing supply chain and the role that they can play, then the more powerful that change is. And it makes them as an individual feel so valued and that they have a role to play, whatever age they are, you know. So the stories about the 3- and 4-year-olds being so active, just blew my mind, because absolutely kids, young people start thinking about all of these really complex things that are going on in our society and world from a very early age. So we knew we had to do educational stuff, not had to, but wanted to. And also it really developed our relationship with the schools. So we are based in Glasgow. We've got a shop in the St. Enoch Centre, but we started off on the south side. So we were working with a lot of schools on the south side. And we have some brilliant schools that we've worked with over that time, and some who really championed us. You know, they really understood what we were trying to achieve and really kind of brought us into the fold. And we started our journey by providing classroom sessions, really from P4 up the way, talking about the clothing supply chain, how clothes are made, what are clothes made from. I brought in samples of different kind of materials so they could feel it. We'd have discussions around it. We'd start looking at the labels in the clothing that they were wearing, you know, the care instructions, what to wash it at. Is their clothing labeled so it doesn't end up in lost property, which is a major headache of every school and for every parent carer too. And they were really effective. And then we started developing an enterprise model. So we said, so it's great going in and just talking to one class at a time or one year group at a time, but actually how do we really embed like clothing, or at least the value of kind of like reuse into a school? And we thought, if we can spend more time with a particular age group who really take on the challenge of reusing, repairing and creating value out of the clothing that's, let's say, surplus to requirement, then we could see the school really, you know, advancing their own goals around social equality. And we haven't even touched on that yet, but I'll come back to that. But the school really takes it on board. They own that thing about uniform, because I suppose as a parent and someone who's set up a social enterprise around clothing, I think we take it for granted. And even the need to wear uniform at school, it's just, oh, you have to do it. But the work that goes into it, the carbon that's emitted, the chemicals that are used, the child labor that still exists within the clothing supply chain, I mean, it's really shocking. Anyway, so, you know, we then engaged with Julie, actually, and this was, you know, we had this model and we had one school on the south side of Glasgow saying, yeah, we're really keen to do it. But they actually, in the end, found it quite hard to timetable it in, because what we wanted was regular slots. And because of the depth we were going into with the model, or certainly that stage, what we were going into, it was quite hard to do it with a whole year group. So the school actually had a challenge there where they were like, well, actually, I think we can do it with a class. How do we program that? Rather than actually to do it with a whole year group, it kind of becomes something a bit different. So I'd shared the module as far as I'd got it, which was at a pretty early stage with Julie earlier this year. And she kind of worked her magic and really embedded all of the learning outcomes with the curriculum for excellence. And that really helped, because I'm not a teacher. So I'm going in as, you know, an entrepreneur, as someone who, you know, has this kind of mission towards social and environmental justice, but I'm not a teacher. That's not what I am. I'm a zoologist. Anyway, so maybe I am trained to some degree. Anyway, so Julie worked her magic, and what we have now is kind of a really detailed suite of kind of workshop sessions and teaching sessions, which we perceive running over probably 4 months. The challenge we have now is when Julie was feeding back just before lockdown, we went into lockdown. So we've had to adapt. You know, we've had to think, okay, well, what's the right time to re-engage with schools, number one, because they're all obviously having to adjust and deal with a whole pile of different challenges and pressures and priorities. But actually, how do we continue to learn and teach around enterprise without necessarily being, you know, me coming in as a guest or as a partner? And how do we do that? So we're kind of starting to think a bit more deeply about that. So the module as it stands touches on tons of the things you guys have already been saying before. It touches on, there's clear content in terms of a learning journey about what we've covered in each of the modules. So it doesn't assume knowledge. It starts at the beginning of a story and you know, around social enterprise and the clothing industry. And it goes on to take apart all the different parts of running a socially responsible and environmentally responsible business. So a big part of I suppose, the view I had and the belief that I had, and I think Julie shared as well, that, you know, there's different ways of doing business. And in our changing world, and, you know, without getting too, you know, taking it too high up in terms of what Scottish Government is looking at from a policy and strategy perspective, it's about green recovery. So it's not just about sort of creating jobs and seeing our economy establish itself. It's also about doing it in the most sustainable and socially just way as well. So we went through all of that, and I'm just kind of flashing over to my notes because I always need to refer to stuff. But, you know, it did start off with teacher sessions around the clothing industry. So, you know, this is stuff that already teachers can deliver on. Numeracy and maths, and then it would be like a breakout session or a session with me around enterprise. So it's really integrated with the teacher. And I really enjoyed that as a partner, because I really like the idea of not all of the, and I'm going to say burden, but not all of the pressure on me to be able to provide all of that information, to very much see it as, you know, a shared journey with the teacher and the class. And then we went on to kind of the literacy side of things, persuasive writing, and that was linked into kind of the marketing of services associated with apparel and generally social enterprise. And then we moved into donations and sales and marketing. So it was a really practical part where they could probably be a bit more creative, you know, thinking about how do we engage with a customer base? How do we make this desirable? How do we create things that help people to donate or to buy? Or how do we motivate them? How do we appeal to things that are really important? And then we were planning on a site visit, or in some way, maybe even virtually bringing the children into our operation at the St. Enoch Centre. And then we would have sales at the school. So a lot of that has kind of been knocked out of the park at the moment, you know, the real interactions, because I mean, parents aren't even allowed in schools at the minute. So we have to think differently about that. However, you know, that will not stop us, but, you know, there will be a time and a place. Absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just about to say that hopefully all of these examples from everyone that we've worked with on that have spoken for us today have showed you, you know, the totality of it. I mean, Paul has actually just put a comment in. You were reading my mind there, that so much of that is what the Curriculum for Excellence, the refreshed narrative, speaks about, the learner voice, the interdisciplinary learning, teacher confidence and lived experience. Thank you, Paul. It's exactly what we're looking for, and I think why we are also passionate about doing what we do. I just wanted to, if anyone has any questions for any of our speakers today, you can just come off your microphone rather than typing it in, unless you would prefer to do that. I also, if anyone wants to get any information to contact either Fraser, Mary or Izzy, or indeed Monica from Bridalbin, just get in touch with me. I can give you their details if you need any advice or help at all. I'm just conscious of time possibly running away from us, but hopefully, yeah, with everybody that's spoken today, you can kind of see what we're trying to do and how enterprise in education really does cover an awful lot of things, and it's basically the recognition of Curriculum for Excellence since the refresh, and certainly since its inception in 2004. What I would like you to do, if you can for me just now, is go back to menti.com. Lucy, if you can show the today's takeaways slide on there, and I just wondered if anyone had any comments, maybe actions that they want to take forward, if anything's really sparked their interest. If you enter the code 2407030, if you've not still got that up, even if you wanted to share one of your own stories from a school or your own establishment, it's something that we're always really passionate about doing is sharing these stories and showing people how just ordinary people in their ordinary schools with their extraordinary, that can really inspire people beyond just our little group, and that's one of our main aims, and we could be in touch with you to put maybe your story on our site. Lucy, will you share your presentation for us? Learners are at the heart of education, absolutely, and that's what I think, you know, projects like the Circular Economy Challenge, Mary, yours, and Fraser Company Programme, that the learners are really making the decisions and doing something that they're passionate about. A lot of the feedback that we get is that they don't realise they're actually learning, or it's just a different way of learning. They're having so much fun, but it's really meaningful at the same time. And yeah, working with teachers to support their bravery and confidence, and I think by sharing our stories, that helps people in their own little pockets, hopefully all around the country, to get a wee bit of confidence to do these kind of adventurous sometimes, or they can be little small things. Especially in the current situation, this is a crucial time to help embed the enterprising mindset for students moving forward. It's essential for future growth and recovery. Thank you. That's quite often the way that we're helping people to frame it as well now. When we're talking to teachers, it is about what life's going to be like for these young people now, with the, you know, youth unemployment, etc., all of that kind of thing, and about showing them and giving them the confidence to go out there and sell themselves as well. Creative learning is key. So much life learning that will be used in the future. Enterprise isn't just about money, absolutely, although some of them do focus on that, and we encourage that as well, because some of them will want to be entrepreneurs and they'll have that focus on profit, but we can also introduce them to different versions of enterprise, whether that be social or if it's got a sustainable focus and that kind of thing. I just left that one to the end there to deal with. Is there ever conflict with assessment? Something that I'm really interested in. I was speaking to somebody the other day who was looking at assessment of skills, and it's something that I really want to learn more about. I think when you are designing your enterprise learning, assessment is always, you know, at the forefront anyway. It's part of that wheel of curriculum design, so it's not left out, it's never ignored. A lot of the forms of assessment Mary and I have been working on we've been struggling a wee bit because it's been online, and if the young people can't show us what they've learned or share with us, it gives us a barrier that we need to think of other ways to do the assessment. But quite often our form of assessment involves some sort of presentation from the young people. So whether that's a business pitch or a display of their learning, it could be just sharing their learning with another class or inviting someone to come in to talk about what they've learned. Designing, creating, and then carrying out an event can be used in assessment. So there's loads of different opportunities for assessment in there, and it's certainly something that I personally would like to look at more in depth. Has anyone got anything to say about assessment that might be able to help? Mary, thank you.
Yeah, I just we as Julie says, we do build in assessment as part of, I think Izzy also alluded to it, that when we create challenges and activities for the young people to do, we match it up to the curriculum, and part of that is, so we match it up to the associated experiences and outcomes, as much as possible, completely cross-curricular and interdisciplinary. That's for both primary and secondary. But what we also build in, and by we I mean Young Enterprise Scotland and Scotland's Enterprise in Schools, what we also build in are key assessment parts at the end of each session or the end of each activity, whatever it is. As Julie says, that can look like lots of different things, but there's another factor that sometimes people think that Enterprise is an add-on, but it's actually one of the cross-cutting themes of the Curriculum for Excellence, along with creativity and learning for sustainability. So Enterprise and employability is a real key part, so it shouldn't be seen as an add-on. And actually, Julie's got a great wee graphic, a pocket guide to Enterprise that's on their website, and it actually explains really clearly. So any teacher who comes up against resistance from colleagues or parents or senior leadership teams who say Enterprise is an add-on, it's just a fun money-making thing, there's actually very sound educational reasons why Enterprise in education is so crucial, how it marries up to, things like how good is our school, building the curriculum for, all of those types of things. But it's also about equality, it's about learning for sustainability, it's about all of those things. You could justify it till the cows come home, because it is really what learning and education is all about. So if as a teacher, I'm presuming this is a sort of teacher's question, because that is a big challenge, but certainly the resources that Social Enterprise Academy, all of these types of organisations, they can help you with that in terms of matching up the curriculum, matching up relevant assessments and so on. Julie did touch earlier on the point that it is more challenging. We believe, we both come from primary backgrounds, but I think it is harder to do a more cross-curricular, interdisciplinary thing if you're a chemistry teacher and you've got a chemistry higher class in front of you, but it's not impossible. You can definitely work with the art department, for example. You could definitely work with the drama department, put on an event, share all about a display of knowledge, invite parents, whatever it is. There's lots and lots of ways that you can justify as a teacher why you're doing enterprise education, because it's the very heart of education, I think.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree. You put it very well there, Mary. And that pocket guide that you mentioned is available on our website, and I do like that as well, because it just is a really quick way to look at that and say, this is why we're doing it. We have to do it because it says this, this, and this, but also here's the real reasons behind it. So thank you. I think that's perfect timing. We're getting really good at the timekeeping here, actually. Thank you for coming along. Thanks for your time. I know it's a busy time for everyone, especially over your lunch break. We really appreciate that. If you want to get in touch with anyone that you've heard from today for any more information, please come to Scotland's enterprisingschools.scot, and we'll put you in touch with anyone that you need. Thank you very much.